So today we're looking at action step 6, which is develop your signature brand voice, which is action step number 6 from our training package, Brand Yourself the Expert. So as you know, we have a tiered effect within our 30 days. First 10 days, Brand Yourself Action Plan. Second 10 days, Brand Yourself the Expert. Third 10 days, Brand Yourself the Authority. So we're at day 16. And we're looking at developing your signature voice. And so your goal for your personal brand should be to leverage your current professional profile and position your personal brand strategically and systematically to become recognized as the authority or the expert in your field. So you can build a powerful personal brand, create a brand that attracts opportunities, develop a brand that reflects your potential as well as your goals and what you're capable of, differentiate your brand as well as brand yourself as the expert in your field. So I'm your host, Rachel Quilty, brand strategist, brand management consultant, depending on what space you're operating in. And so I authored a book, Brand Yourself, and launched it in the US, became the creator of the training plan, Brand Yourself Action Plan, and I've written subsequent books, Brand Yourself the Expert, Brand Yourself the Authority, with the companion training programs. And more recently, during COVID, I was involved in a number of short film shoots, and as you enter into our VIP section, increasingly you see this messaging and our voice changes to more celebrity, more Hollywood, more filmmaking. And so today it's really interesting to talk about your brand voice. And my mission really is to assist you to strategically and systematically build your professional profile, to enable you to leverage your personal brand and position yourself as the authority in your marketplace. And so the one thing that I want you to remember, if it's the only thing that you remember, it's that personal branding is a prerequisite to success. And today, like I said, we're looking at your brand voice and creating that signature. And the reason I kind of mentioned the filmmaking and Hollywood voice is because it appears or it arrives at certain stages of our sales funnel. And so why your brand voice is important and is because obviously we're looking at your brand messaging, we're looking at your signature brand. And one of the most important things that we often overlook or neglect is we're looking at a visual identity. And so we know first impressions count. We know that your brand and that first impression makes an indelible impression upon our prospects and our clients. And so if we consider, there's a number of case studies or researchers that have confirmed this now. First impressions are made up of 55% visual, 38% tonality, and 7% the words that we use. And so we often think about the visual identity of a brand. We often think of the sales copy, but we don't always don't always think about the brand voice or the brand messaging and the tonality of that. And so I'm going to use a few examples of how that might change for you and how you might just tweak that within your branding. And we consider the SWOT analysis as part of that. So when you're considering your brand voice, one of the things that we talked about earlier is doing a SWOT analysis, doing a personal brand audit, and we consider all of our customer touch points. And sometimes we can be thinking about the visual. We're talking about our professional image and making sure that it's visually appealing and attractive, but we forget the tonality. So this is really considering the tonality of your messaging as it hits all your customer touch points. And like with a SWOT, we look at the strengths, the weaknesses, we look at the opportunities, we look at the threats, we look at the trends, and we check in that we're actually creating a tonality that is current yet consistent and congruent with our brand. And so our brand voice is in review in this section or in this action step, and you need to be making sure that your the components of your brand are checking all those boxes with the subliminal impressions that we make. Your credibility, your likability, your personal attractiveness, your confidence. And you know, really think that it's critical that we don't overlook it, because tonality is 38%. And when we think about what is tonality, tonality is literally a smile. And we talked about yesterday that top salespeople are often recognized as the nice people. And yet we kind of want to pigeonhole nice people as being ineffective, and yet what we know from sales and the top performers is that nice people actually achieve greater results. And so we need to be making sure that our voice and our tonality is appealing and attractive, and it operates from a place of a smile, unless that's contrary to your brand. So your personal brand can be critically harmed if your performance is inconsistent with your image. So sometimes for example, I use frontline staff, where you might have you have this beautiful marketing campaign, and it's really generating this incredible level of, inquiry, and yet your frontline staff person, the receptionist, or maybe it's your order form online, isn't necessarily operating with the same tonality. So for example, your receptionist is rude and curt with your clients. So suddenly we've got an incongruent brand voice. It's incongruent with our messaging. And so we need to make sure that that performance at that level is consistent with the overall brand messaging. Otherwise, it really can diminish your brand. So we do talk about communication skills as part of our action plan. We talk about public speaking. We talk about rapport building skills. We talk about asking questions, the right questions, being a good conversationalist. And the most important thing, I think, is the ability to understand other people's views. And, back in April, I was talking about cultural intelligence and understanding cultural norms and how we can embed positive and negative traits from our cultural norms. And so understanding how your cultural norms and how you operate from your cultural norms, as well as how other people might be operating from their cultural norms, and how that is embedded into your messaging and brand voice, is really important as well. So your brand voice is heard. It's heard through your brand message. It's heard through your customer touch points. We talked about going back and doing an audit just to be able to check off that your voice, the words that you use, the tonality, the theme that you're kind of working with is consistent. And that might also include not including too many, ensuring that your language is appropriate for your audience. It doesn't include too much slang or technical talk or whatever the case may be. Okay, so it must be congruent. Define your current brand positioning. And so does it reflect your market's expectations of your brand's voice? Does it reinforce your brand? And so does it attract clients? Does it reflect your business skills? All this is part of your brand voice. And we need to be just doing that check-in with our customer touch points, and does it meet our clients' expectations? Is it appealing? It's making a statement about your business at the point at which each client interacts with your business. So they're known as your customer touch points. And in in our Brand Yourself action plan, we talked about customer touch points. And in small businesses, there's hundreds of touch points, but within a large business, there's thousands of touch points. And so this audit or review process, really could be done annually or, biannually, where you're thinking about where we're creating this customer touch point or this point of connection with our clients. And so just as an illustration, so Brand Yourself, the book, we have the concept image of the pea outside the pod. And so really the book talks about, we include an action plan, but it talks about standing out from the crowd. And there's a lot of information about how you can attract attention, create competitive edge by, being unique and creating this authentic brand outside of your competitors. And so, a lot of our languaging and our brand voice is about illustrating how you can quietly, without being extrovert, without being aggressive, actually create this incredible personal brand. So within the book itself, we have an action plan, like I said. So we always have an action plan, we have action steps. In the book, Brand Yourself the Expert, you'll see a concept image of the chess set. And so we talk a lot of strategy and we talk about tactics, and so the language changes slightly to kind of become more strategic, more operational, more tactical, like I said. When we look at the third book, Brand Yourself the Expert, the languaging really starts to come from a place of authority, and it's very commanding language, and it changes. Even though we're educating people and coaching people on building their brand as an authority, we start to use that because we're role modeling it. So for example, at the moment we've got iPhone 15 being launched, and we see a lot of events and a lot of creativity around the promotion of that. So we see the voice of Apple being communicated via a level of creativity. For example, Richard Branson and Virgin, like I talked about, terms and conditions, even those have a different voice to a normal terms and conditions process that you might see on credit cards, or ticketing and the terms and conditions of flights, etc. So the voice of Virgin drills down to the absolute minimum, like the absolute foundation, which is the terms and conditions, and the legalistic process, which ordinarily would be fairly dry and legalistic, but in this case it's not. It actually immerses itself in the brand of Virgin to that degree. We talked about Harry Potter, the languaging that was introduced in the first book, and the voices that ran through the book. And you can see the same thing in, for example, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the languaging, the voice within that. 50 Shades, you have a really distinctive dialogue and voice running through that novel series. Likewise, a number of other authors where they've created series, and you have the voice of the various heroes, or the core characters and main characters. And I'm being bombarded as I think about all these characters, but you know exactly what I mean. Game of Thrones, there's a language that's introduced there that is throughout the series, and the symbolism and the imagery, and so there's a consistency throughout that. And that's really, it's a nice illustration when you look at books and authors and how they've maintained a certain voice, a brand voice within that series. And it's something you need to think about. Like I said, we have Brand Yourself Action Plan, certain voice, Brand Yourself the Expert, slightly different voice, Brand Yourself the Authority, different voice, and then we go into some of the VIP membership, and it really changes. And Brand Yourself the Celebrity, obviously it's just an excessive amount of filmmaking in Hollywood language, and it's really, we've just adopted that whole theme when you look at the Brand Yourself the Celebrity and our training package there. So today we've looked at action step number 6, develop your signature voice. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at devising your signature IP and copyright. And beyond that, we're looking at your signature business model, your signature series, as well as your signature communication plan. We have some free resources for you. If you haven't already got the Brand Yourself Blueprint and our work journal, please dive across to the website brandyourselfblueprint.com. Download it. If you're going to print off a document, look at the work journal, because that has the questions in it that we want you to be completing. All of our clients complete that book. All of our students complete that. It's just a prerequisite to our training. It kind of, it educates you on our training, and it also determines your commitment to the process. When we have students come into our process, we have 100% completion, which is very different to other training models or other training programs where they literally only have 10%. So we have, and I think it's because we are focused on our personal brand, but the point is it's quite intensive, and so we want to ensure that you have an expectation of what you'll be doing